After doing Mulligan Mewtwo, it's hard not to talk about the original huge stall card of the base set era, which was base set Chansey. Now, Toke Arts brought this up down in the comments, but the first time I ever saw this deck was actually from my friend Jesse, who also shows up down in the comments sometimes. We used to play competitively together on the same team, but he had this deck in the Game Boy game, and it was really fun to use because it had no energy cards in it, and it only had 4 Pokemon, which were base set Chansey. Much like Mulligan Mewtwo, you could sweep the entire Game Boy game with this deck because of dumb NPCs that really didn't know how to compete against it. And competitively, it actually did see some play, but also, like Mulligan Mewtwo, it has some very huge flaws with it, which we'll get into. But first, let's see what else is in this deck besides Chansey. Chansey itself is a beast because of that 120 HP, especially early game when most Pokemon are only going to be hitting for 10 or 20 damage at a time. Even really fast decks like Wigglytuff or Rain Dance, we're still only going to be able to knock this thing out in 2 or 3 hits. And because things like Super Potion and Chansey's own Scrunch attack, as well as Pokemon Center, made it where it's going to take a lot to knock this thing out. And even then, it only has 1 retreat cost, so it can just go back to the bench and heal from there. So in this deck, 4 copies of Chansey, going to be the only Pokemon, and you don't have to worry about using any of its attacks, because there's no energy in this deck. Aside from Chansey, I'm also going to have Mysterious Fossil and Clefairy Doll, which are just going to act as Pokemon to get knocked out, absorb an attack, and your opponent's not going to be able to take a prize. So if you use all 8 of these, your opponent's going to have to take at least 8 turns just to get to a Chansey that might be on your bench, which is going to be very valuable in milling down their deck and stalling them out. Everything in this deck's going to be in play sets, mainly for consistency. You can move cards back and forth. Maybe there's some you think you only need 1 or 2 copies of, but just for simplicity's sake, this is a rough outline of what you can put in this deck. Scoop Up's going to help just get a Chansey out of there really fast, get all the damage off of it so you can just lay it right back down, which is also going to buy you another 3 or 4 turns. Pokemon Center does the same. It's just going to heal all the damage off. You don't have to worry about the repercussions of discarding energy because Chansey's not going to have any. There's none in the deck. Ha! Recycle and Maintenance are just classic cards to help stall, to get you through the game, making sure you're not decking out faster than your opponent, just in case they know what kind of deck they're up against and they're playing the same game as you. And then Item Finder, Computer Search, both going to help you search out the exact cards you need and also reuse them from your discard. So those Item Finders are going to be really helpful in getting Pokemon Centers and Scoop Ups back out of your deck or getting them when you need them. So if a Chansey's about to be knocked out and you haven't been able to put another Chansey on your bench, that's when you're going to throw down a Computer Search. And because there's so many trainers in this deck that do different stuff, you're not going to mind discarding some of them depending on your matchup. So in some matchups, you're not going to care about Gust of Wind all that much. So you can discard those easily to use Computer Search. Same thing for Switch. That's mainly in here just if you can't get a Scoop Up or a Pokemon Center in time. You can get a Chansey onto your bench and then just use Switch. And that way you can wait out another Pokemon Center or Scoop Up. The glare from the light is covering up Mr. Fuji there, who actually has a pretty good combo with Switch. I moved the light around a little bit to get a better look at it later. But if you have 2 Chanseys on your bench, which with Computer Search, and it shouldn't be really hard to do that, it's going to be able to make it to where you can switch, get a Chansey with a lot of damage counters on it on your bench, use that Mr. Fuji just to shuffle it right back into your deck, and you can either wait it out or search for it. It's up to you. Computer Search is also great in this deck because there are no draw cards. Because it's stall, you don't want to be playing Oaks and Bills and decking out just as fast as your opponent is. And finally, Pokeball is just a way to try to get those Chanseys without milling yourself out too much as well. So as viewers of my videos, you probably know that there is one card that can completely destroy this deck, and that is Lass. If your opponent has Lass and they can catch you early game, you're pretty much going to be left with nothing in your hand. And you're only going to be able to draw 1 card per turn since there is no draw acceleration in this deck, which is going to make it very hard to get out those Chanseys. You're definitely going to be starting with one. but a lot of this deck rides on you being able to get another Chansey to have as backup on your bench. So if your opponent is able to get a last out on you and you have to shuffle everything in your hand back into your deck, then if you're up against something like Hitmonchan, it's going to be pretty stressful trying to make that one Chansey survive when you're only going to be drawing one card per turn. Chansey itself is a very solid choice for this deck, mainly because of that huge HP, and there's not a lot of things that can hard counter it. If you watch all of my videos, you know, a couple ago I did one about Eradicate deck, which is its sole purpose is basically to hard counter Chansey. However, you're not going to run into Eradicate that often. Another hard counter to this deck is actually a tease for my next video, which is going to be the requested Pidgeot deck. Pidgeot has the ability to just send a card straight back to your opponent's hand, which if that's the only card you had out, then you lose instantly. It may seem at first that this deck is going to take very long to play a game with. However, it goes by a lot quicker than you may think. Like Mulligan Mewtwo, this only has 4 basics in it, so you're going to be reshuffling a lot. And if your opponent is drawing an extra card off of each of those redraws, then they're already going to be milling through a lot of their deck. And that's without them playing Oaks or Bills, which are going to go through even faster. Now, this could set your opponent up to deal a huge chunk of damage very early against a Chansey, which can throw you a bit off with this deck. And that's if they get 4 plus powers in their hand. That means like turn 1, they're going to be able to deal an extra 40 damage, but I mean, Chansey's a tank, so it's not going to matter all that much. What's more likely to happen is that your opponent's going to get a bunch of energy removals in their hand, a bunch of search cards, Gust of Wind probably, and those are going to do them no good. Gust of Wind's useless when all you have is an active Chansey and a bench Chansey. Either way, I mean, it doesn't matter what you're attacking, honestly. And the same thing for energy removals. Those are just going to sit in their hand because there's no energy in this deck. And these are cards that almost everything in base set ran a full play set of, if not 3. So ultimately, your opponent's just going to be left with a handful of cards that do them no good. The main threat to this deck is really Rain Dance, because Rain Dance can get to a point late game where it can definitely 2-hit KO a Chansey. However, this deck also has enough disruption in it where you can stall an extra few turns with Gust of Wind and energy removal just to make sure that you're buying enough time to make that Chansey last long enough, either for you to take 1 hit and then get a Pokemon Center out of your deck or a Scoop Up, or enough time to get a backup Chansey onto the bench. And then hopefully throughout the game you can recycle those out of your discard with Recycle, or if you're going to adapt this deck to also include Rocket cards, Nightly Garbage Run is a staple, definitely. This deck also runs very well with energy in it. That way you can actually use Chansey's Scrunch attack, which is a great stall tactic in itself, but it also allows access to other cards like Super Potion and Super Energy Removal, which can help heal a lot more damage and make those Chanseys last longer, while being more disruptive for your opponent as well. However, that does mean you have to edit out a lot of other trainers in this deck to make room for those energy cards, as well as the Super Potions and Super Energy Removals that are going to be using them. I would really love to hear if any of you guys have ever used this deck, or if you build it after watching this video. Let me know how it plays against some of the other decks that you have in your repertoire. You know, a big thanks again to Tokarts and Jesse for showing me this deck and for requesting it down in the comments. And keep those requests coming. I just broke 200 subscribers, which is amazing. And if you guys know other people that are into the vintage formats, the older formats of the TCG, please share my content. That's the reason I created it in the first place. So just thank you guys for helping me get over 200. The next goal will be 500, even though it's a bit lofty considering the amount of videos I put out. But again, just thank you guys. See you next video. Bye.